Hey! Okay, so here's an important thing. If you're gonna do this tutorial, then you should go to my other video, link in the description to get the brushes that I use. Alrighty, and after this, I'll be making one for darker skin tones too, so enjoy the video and thank you so much. Also read the description. Thank you! Okay, so the first step, of course, is to apply the base colors. Make sure that the layer is underneath the eyes and the hair, so yeah. Of course, you can use the bucket tool, but I like to use the brush because I have to get underneath my line art since my liner is actually kind of soft. Also, here's an important thing when we're choosing colors. We go down the color scale this way, and we make it like slightly more towards saturation. Alright, so that's how we'll be picking our colors. Make a new layer and set it to clipping. Also, just showing you guys that the background is transparent. Okay, so use an airbrush and lightly brush at the bottom of her head and at the top of her head. Very, very lightly. It's easy to mess up on this part, so just make sure to do it very lightly. And then get a brighter color and dab the middle of her face. You can see with and without. It's a tiny difference, but it is very necessary. A new layer, set it to clipping. We're going to be adding some more details. So get a pink, but not like a bright pink, keep it natural. And just lightly airbrush the bottom of her eyes and the top. Also, we'll be getting her nose a little, since it kind of adds dimension, and noses are a little pink for some people. I know my nose is like pretty pink. So we're not going to make it look like she's sick, so just make sure that it's lightly added to her nose. And then lightly brush it onto her lips, because we're going to make it look like she has a natural lip color. You can continue going back and adjusting little things. So I'm making the brush a little smaller and working out harder to refine the whole thing. And adding a little thing at the bottom where her lip would be ending. The brush that we're using is just the regular airbrush, so there's really not much to it. Just keep lightly brushing, but make sure not to overdo it and don't use highly saturated colors. Make a new layer, set it to clipping, and multiply. Use Perfect Soft, and go down the color scale like I showed you before, and we'll be creating some shadows now. So this whole thing would just be a bunch of layers on refining the whole piece again and again and again. We're of course going to lower the opacity probably, because that nose pops out just a little too much. When you make a line on the nose, this isn't completely necessary, it's more of a stylistic choice. But make sure that's not a straight line, make sure that's curved. Then go get our blender. I made a new blender that's much better than this one, which is 2.0. But yeah, get your blender or the blender that I made, which you can find in the video, and start blending things a little so things can be a little softer. Go back to using the soft airbrush and keep refining things. Keep in mind that when we shade and when we do these kind of things, we will not be using straight lines. Everything is slightly curved since her face is curved. We have to think of things from more of a 3D perspective, because yes, it's a 2D drawing, but she's going to be 3D. Make a new layer, set it to multiply, and get the soft brush again. And now we'll be creating the shadows for her hair. The shadows will slightly be set a little off, not sticking directly to where her hair is, because her hair is floating above her face, like maybe by an inch or so. The skin is a very soft thing, and my style is more of soft shading, so we're using everything very softly. On the neck, just make a shadow, which is where the chin is casting a shadow. And then a little bit on her neck. You can poke around with like things that you could do with the nose bridge, but I don't really do much for the nose. Go back and get the blender, and it hurts to talk. Alright, go back, get the blender, and start blending it just a little bit. Nice and soft, so it doesn't look like it completely like merges with everything, you know, so it make sure it doesn't look like a gradient, but it looks soft. Alrighty, so get the soft brush again, and we're going back to refining the shadows. This is basically a repeated process of softening things, going back, refining things. So yeah, go back and refine things again. Add lightly, just a small shadow where the eyebrow is, but not too much. Under the eye, and make it curve around the cheeks since her face is 3D. A little bit by the jawline, and refine that neck shadow more. Okay, lock your layer, get the airbrush in a blue. We're going to be making the shadow have some more gradient for more detail also. It's a good thing. Then get a light pink, very saturated color, and brush the ends of the shadow. We're going to be blurring everything so it kind of looks a little softer and blends together just a little better. Adjust the opacity of the layer and then merge. Make a new layer, set to clipping, and get a light color. Get a lightish pink because we'll be doing the blush now. Lightly airbrush it on. Like no tomato faces here, just lightly brush it on. It's very easy to mess this up, so just do it very, very lightly. Then with the airbrush, make a bunch of tiny little lines. You can get a more saturated color so that the lines are more visible, and just keep making the lines. You can make the lines freehand, or you can use the ruler. It's completely up to you. Though I would prefer to make it freehand. You can also adjust it a little more by moving it around if you find that it's slightly out of place. Go in, shade the bottom of her eyes just a little more. You can make little lines across her nose, as I said before. It's completely up to you, or you can not do it. Refining the shadows a bit more on her nose, and adding just those little lines. Going back and merging everything. Getting white and the harder perfect brush. And we're creating that little shine by the nose. Shine thingy. This part isn't completely necessary, but I feel like it adds a little more dimension. Create just a light little reflection by her lips and by her cheeks. Also, you can do it at the top of her eyelids and also on her nose. Then we'll be blurring it a little since I don't want it to be too visible, but still keep it like not too blurry. Once again, we are merging everything. Then make a new layer, set it to multiply. Get a purplish color, and we're refining the shadows again. Keeps going back again and again because we're adding dimension to this, so we're gonna have darker shadows. Blurring the edges of it can help make it look like it blends more. Okay. So just going back and refining the shadows just a little more. Again and again, it continues going over, repeating. It repeats going over the same shadows with the darker color, just refining things again and again and again. And make sure to do everything softly since the skin is a very delicate thing. And everything here, you don't really see a lot of hard shadows because the skin's texture is very soft. Merge everything, make a new layer, and get like an orangish. And then we'll be lightly airbrushing her neck. Then merge it. An important thing is to also color your liner. You could do that by making a new layer above it and clipping, or you could lock the layer. Then color your line art. I use the airbrush to color my line art. Coloring line art makes a huge difference for me. Also, the liner isn't just one color, like I use a red and a brown, and like a dark brown and sometimes a black. But yeah, you see, coloring your line art, very important for me. This is optional. Make a new layer, set it to color dodge, use the airbrush and a red, and just dab it on the middle of the face. Also, something about skin shading is when you shade, don't just make it like a stiff line like that. When you shade, the shape of that is like a cylinder, so follow the form. When you shade something, you really have to follow the form of it. You have to think more in a 3D perspective, because the arm is in the shape of a cylinder. It's 3D, not 2D. Then, as you can see, like, yeah, that's just a little tip. Alright, thank you so much, and sorry if my voice sounds a little strained. I was a little too lazy to go make myself some tea. So, yeah, without my tea, my voice just isn't the same. Alright, anyway, thank you so much, and I'll be making darker skin color tones soon. And also, if you want to get the same brushes that I have, I made a video on that, link in the description. Have a good night, day, or wherever you are. See you later, and thank you so much for all the support. Bye!